name is Grant Hodgson, and he's my first cousin, and is very pleased that he's found something for me to do, something useful for me to do in my life, and I'm very pleased to be here. So we're going to speak in that order, Grant, and then me, and then Grant, and then this other gentleman, his name is John Stenhouse. But before we get to us three, there's a fourth person here called Tony in the list, Tony Valentine, who has a family bereavement and so wants to express his regrets at not being here. About Grant, I want to say not a lot, except that the time that he's spent on this little opus of his, he's sometimes come to stay with us, and we've chatted and things and emailed and things, and I'd just like to say that his attention to the little gem that he's found, this little conversation, has been long-standing, quite reflective, and deliciously uncertain, so that he's given it a detailed treatment without being dogmatic about anything at all. And I think it's a real treasure for that reason. John, I'm going to introduce by saying also not very much. We don't know each other very well, but I was able to look him up online because you can. And it's silly for me to go on about what he's done because he can tell you he knows more about it than I do. But I will say that one of the many things that he's got in the portfolio of his history scholarship is the interaction, the early interaction, the religious interaction in pre-treaty New Zealand, and the early interaction with between missionaries and Narrabeen. In other words, this topic. Maybe I should also say of the history department that the history department is very, very good for the Hocken Library. I'm making that point because I used to be very briefly president of that august institution, and the Hocken Library is pretty good for the history department. But just a little fun fact, it occurred to me as I was driving here that the history department of Otago University has presented New Zealand with 2 of the last 4 finance ministers, one of them a student and one of them a teacher, which is not a bad score. In fact, Tony Ballantyne's the PVC Pro Vice Chancellor, or has been, of the Humanities Division, and if you go that wide then you can count Bill English in as well, and so that's nearly a job lot, except for the present finance minister, who, although herself an English graduate, English literature graduate, is from a university called not Otago, which is why the economy is in so much trouble. Those are my remarks. Thank you.